So today we're going to be looking at the top 5 UFO encounters that have the most compelling evidence with them. So let's just jump right into it and start off with number 5, all right? So with number 5, we have the Pascagoula alien abduction. This happened back in 1973, and this was a very, very interesting case. Out in Jackson, Mississippi, of course, even though it is Mississippi, a strange event happened where Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were abducted by this craft while they were out fishing. Now, that picture right there, it was actually the exact opposite. It had 2 blue lights on front and it was all glowing white. Now, these 2 men worked at a shipping yard in Pascagoula, and what happened is they're out fishing and they hear this buzzing noise, and as they look up, they see this craft come flying at them. And it looks like a football. It's glowing white, and it has 2 like blue lights on the end of it. And then like this door kind of thing opens up, and these aliens come floating out, but they don't look like regular aliens. They look like they have like a carrot for a nose and a carrot for ears and lobster claws and like this real thick like elephant looking gray skin. He said they moved kind of like robots. And he looked over at Calvin, who was frozen, scared out of his mind. And he watched as these creatures floated up to them, grabbed them by the arms, picked them up, and flew them into the craft. Once inside the craft, this crystal eye thing came out of the wall and started to scan over his whole body. And he said it went up and over in front of his face, over the back of his head, and down his back. And he knew it was going to come out from underneath him because it came out between his legs. So it did like a whole circle of his body. And it was like scanning him or something. And then once the test was over, the creatures picked him back up and flew him back outside and put him right back on the dock. And he looked over and he saw Calvin still there, frozen in a stiff position, still freaked out. And then all of a sudden, like the creatures float back into the craft, the door shuts, and it flies away. And Calvin is still sitting there totally frozen. And when he goes and touches Calvin, he's like, hey, snap out of it. All of a sudden, Calvin just starts screaming this blood-curdling scream that he wouldn't stop. He screamed for like 10 minutes. And they, after he calmed down, they decided to call the police because they didn't know what else to do. So they went to the police department and, explained to him what happened. Well, the sheriff, of course, didn't believe him or whatever, but figured, he'd, let them tell their story anyway. And he's questioning the 2 men, and then he puts the 2 men into a single room, and he leaves. And he's like, this way, if they're lying or anything, they're going to, start to come up with stuff right now. And there was a microphone recording in the room. And when he left, like a recording that they played afterwards was when it was just them in the room and nobody else. They didn't know that it was being recorded or anything. They start going off about how, this was terrible, that, they're like, they're scared out of their mind. They don't know what they're going to do. They're like, what is it? Or are they aliens? What are they? And I mean, like, it was so fascinating. And like, when you listen to the recording, you can tell that these men were genuinely freaked out. Whatever happened to them happened for real and scared the shit out of them. And so this was a really big case, and I really like the fact that they went to the police with everything. And so you have testimony from police officers and the ambulance drivers and stuff like that. And J. Allen Hynek even came and investigated this particular sighting. He was the director of Project Blue Book for the Air Force, which ended like 4 years before this abduction took place or whatever, but still J. Allen Hynek was still a big part of everything back then. So that's what, that's why I think that this is one of the top rated cases. Not many people know about it, but it was still a very, very fascinating case. All right, so number 4, we have the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. Now, this is a excellent case. Thousands and thousands of witnesses. That's why I think it's one of the best, and it had to be put on the list. Now, this particular tape, this is the morning of March 13th. This is the day the sighting happened, but this was taken in the morning. These people actually had witnessed lights the night, the 2 prior nights before. So for the past 2 nights, they had seen crazy lights in the sky. That's why they were ready to film that night again.
Are there 2 of them? And they're like side by side?
Look what happens here.
One of them looks square shaped.
What?
I don't know.
I can see that.
That's because he's doing
I think he's filming a house right
Wait a
there.
minute, am I filming the house or the UFOs?
Can you find it?
Oh, that was the house, forget it.
It's not square.
See how easy it is to fuck up at night?
I could print it.
Maybe you could zero it in on there.
Fireball.
2 of them side by side.
Yeah, it does. Maybe that's why it's so yellow. When if there's the 2 of them, make it.
This is the location. This is Steve right here. He's the one who kind of got it. There's Rhonda, pool, puppy. Let's get back to the saucer.
These guys were ready to look for him, like, because they had been seeing him for a couple nights.
You want to lower it?
I need a chair.
I got another spotting scope somewhere here if somebody wants to look at this.
They even got a spotting scope.
There's
That's
2
cool.
side by side. This is slightly different.
There's another one. Oh, look. 1, 2. There's another
Wait,
one.
where?
Chimney. There's another one, too.
Where?
There's
Oh, look at that.
Please, guys.
There's another one.
Now they start freaking out when they show up.
They keep coming.
Wait, I see. Whoa, look at them.
I got that one on video.
There's 4 of them. Look at there's 3 of them all together.
I got the 3rd one popping
Lower
in.
to your left. There's one behind the chimney. One just flared up.
I got 4 of them.
As part of Operation Snow.
Now this is what's messed up. This is how they try to explain it, but it was military dropping flares that these guys from Maryland were dropping them. Listen.
Flying the airplane.
According to the Maryland Air National Guard, the illumination flares were deployed, fell, and disappeared from sight, behind the mountain range seen in the video. But many eyewitnesses claimed that the lights they saw were in front of the range, and therefore could not have been the same flares. In an attempt to settle this crucial debate, we gave the tapes shot by one of the witnesses to Dr. Leonid Rudin of Cognitech, a California-based image processing firm.
Now this is what's messed up.
Same images that had been previously analyzed by Jim Dilatoso.
We were presented with 2 videotapes. One videotape was shot at night. Another videotape was made during the day from approximately the same location with the camera pointing in approximately the same direction.
It's like sometimes you come across people or companies that like obviously are trying to give you a false impression. Because watch what happens here. See, he layered it over and superimposed it and says that these are falling behind the mountain. That's why they disappear.
The intricate process was complete.
This is a loop which repeats this disappearing.
Now look at that thick blue line in the middle. That shouldn't be there. Because I superimposed it myself to see where it is, and these lights are well in front of the mountain.
With the point in time when the light is exactly at the.
And these guys know this. Now see, I did the same thing, and I said, okay, so they are absolutely in front of the mountain. He's wrong, but they did know it, because look at that on the side. Apparently they forgot to edit that fucker out. Number 3, you guys. Bob fucking Lazar. This dude's the man. I fucking love this guy. If you don't know who Bob Lazar is the man who brought Area 51 to light. So before him, no one even knew Area 51 existed. Then he came out and said, not only does it exist, but I reverse engineer extraterrestrial spacecraft. And so his story blew up, whatever. And everyone knows about it now. Now, there's a bunch of different reasons why I believe him. One, because of, the main reason is the evidence he has is his physics. The physics to it makes sense. They add up. And especially because he was able to predict stuff 25 years ago that is only today that we know is true. But he said 25 years ago, he's like, no, for a fact, this is true. All right. He explained how you get to Area 51, how you take a bus, how you take a certain plane, the Janet airline, everything out there. All that is correct. He even has his tax form, for working for the Department of Naval Intelligence. He explained that the fuel was an element called element 115, unobtainium. All right, and everyone laughed at him then, but we know today that unobtainium does exist, and it does stabilize. You can reach it. That the island of stability does exist, and everything, and it works. And so that is absolutely true. Also, he said the craft was, it could travel using a gravitational field, that it would create a distortion in space-time and would allow it to essentially roll downhill forever and just keep going on forever with nothing to stop it. And you don't feel any inertia because you're within your own gravitational field. And he said that it's because we amplify the gravity A wave, or the weak nuclear force, or the strong nuclear force. And you amplify it out using element 115, and when the matter and antimatter react, they cause annihilation, which releases a tremendous amount of energy, and that's what craft uses to propel itself. So that's why I believe him. Number 2, the aerial school sightings. Now this is one of my favorite. 62 children witnessed a UFO land at their playground. Aliens get out, kind of fly around, and fly back into the craft head first.
No.
Listen to this.
How did those thoughts come to you? Did they come to you from the craft, or from...
This was so scary.
From the man.
The man. And the man, did the man say those things to you? How did he get that across to you?
Well, he never said anything. It's just that the face is the eyes.
The
What
eyes.
was the sense you got from those eyes?
He was interested.
And now we're at number 1, the Travis Walton encounter. The same guy, his story, the movie Fire in the Sky was based on his experience. Although the movie was a little bit different than what actually happened to him. And it kind of sucks because what happened was even cooler than the movie would have been. So they should have just followed it to detail. But of course, it's Hollywood, so they can't fucking do that. All right, so basically what happens is they're getting off work. They're out logging in Arizona in the White Mountains. And there's like 6 or 7 guys. It's like 6 o'clock in the afternoon. They get off work, and as they're driving, they see what looks like a fire in the sky. Now, when they get up to it, they realize it's not a fire in the sky. It's not a forest fire or anything. It's a UFO. Well, Travis, who's only 17 at the time, he jumps out of the truck and starts running towards it. He thinks it's just going to up and fly away. And when he gets closer to it, he realizes it's not flying away. It's just sitting there, and he got scared. So he ducked down behind like this log that was laying on the ground. And then everything started to like shake and vibrate, and like everyone in the truck could feel it, the ground, everything, the air was like vibrating. And as soon as he stood up, he got hit with this beam of light, and it like threw him back like 20 feet in the air. And they said when he landed, he looked like a rag doll. Like he looked completely broken, like his bones were broken. It's like he just flopped like he was dead. And it scared him so bad that the rest of the dudes just left him there. They take off driving, freaking out, saying the thing killed him, it killed him, and they're all, you know, scared out of their mind. Now, once they got far enough away, the driver was like, all right, we got to go back for him. And the other guys are like, no, fuck that, he's dead. He's like, no, for real, I'm going back for him. And they're like, no. And he's like, all right, fine. Me and the truck are going back. Anyone who wants to can get out and wait here. And of course, they're all like, well, fuck that, I'm not getting out and waiting here. They're scared, so they all went back. And when they went back to look for him, he wasn't there. They were so afraid that they were literally walking arm in arm and wouldn't get a couple inches away from each other. They were so scared out of their minds. And of course, they don't find Travis or anything, so they get all freaked out, and they're like, okay, we have to call the cops. So when they call the cops come and hear their story, and immediately are suspicious of them. I mean, these are good old boys up there logging and stuff. They're like, oh, they killed him or something. They're like, what, you know, tell us the truth. You guys killed him, right? And they're like, no. Like a UFO came and took his ass. Something took him, you know, like they told him what happened, and they're like, he's gone. So they went up there and looked for him. They couldn't find him. They didn't see any evidence of it. And the cops just automatically start suspecting foul play from the very beginning. That's all they're thinking. And now Travis is gone at this point, and the guys are, trying their best to, explain to the cops what happened, but the cops don't want to believe it. They're like, just tell us, where's the fucking body? Okay? Where is it? Where's the fucking body? We know you got it. Where'd you hide it? You bury it somewhere? Give us the fucking body. That's basically what happens. And so they're like, we're telling you guys the truth. They're like, okay, well, would you be willing to take a lie detector test? And all of them jumped at the chance. They're like, yes, absolutely. They would love to take a lie detector test. Well, at the time, there was only one person available to give the lie detector test. And that was the guy who invented the lie detector test. He invented the polygraph machine. And he worked for the FBI for whatever, 30 years or something. So he was like the best in the nation. But he was the only guy who was able to do it at the time. And especially with so many witnesses. Well, he came, he gives everyone the polygraph test, and he comes out saying that Travis Walton was abducted by a UFO, and he absolutely believes them. Now, Travis, this whole time, he wakes up, he can't breathe, he can't see, and his chest is really hurting, and then he thinks he's in a hospital, and he looks and he sees these aliens, like, standing in front of him. He freaks out, and he rolls off this table, and he grabs some kind of metal instrument that was, like, on his chest. And he's like, I'm gonna fucking bash your little gray skulls at you motherfuckers. And he starts like running out. They're like all trying to stare at him for some reason. And he's just like starts charging at them. And they fucking book it out of the room. And he's, scared out of his mind. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. He's just a 17-year-old kid. So he starts running around the class. He sees that the aliens went one way. So he goes the other way. Okay, in this ship. And when he's running around in there, he comes into a room that has a chair in the middle of it. And he thinks that the chair will somehow open up a door or a control panel or something. And so he starts like messing with it. And when it does, it creates like this screen. It looked like he was in outer space. He said he could see stars and planets and suns and like constellations and everything just floating around him. And he said it starts spinning around and it was really disorientating. So he, he's like, he wanted to get out of there. He's like messing with these controls, like, oh shit, what am I doing? And then all of a sudden these human looking people came in, and he's like, oh, okay, well, hey, can you help me, blah blah blah. And they're not talking to him. They're wearing like these like blue suits with like these plastic masks, these like space helmet kind of things. And he says they look totally normal, just completely white, like what the Nordic kind of aliens would look like or whatever. So they walk him out and they get him outside. They walk him outside of the ship, and they're inside a giant hangar. And he sees rows and rows of other little UFOs. And he's like, whoa, whoa. And then he starts realizing that these aren't firemen. At first, he thought that that's what they were. He thought they were like firemen, and they were in like hazmat suits or something. And so, he trusted them at first. And they didn't talk the whole time. And then he's like, oh shit. And he's like, no, 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 no. And the guy grabs him and pulls up this like face mask and starts to put it towards his face, and he tries to fight him off, but he said the guy's strength was like you've never felt. It was like a machine. Like it was so incredibly strong, he couldn't do anything to stop it. And they put the mask on his face, and he passed out. And when he woke up, he's on the side of the road, like 5 miles away or 15 miles away, and he sees the craft like down in the sky a little bit, and he watches it just kind of zoom away and take off. And it left him by a payphone, which I think is really interesting because that's not where it took him. It took him miles and miles away, but if it would have dropped him off out there, I mean, he could have died from exposure, that dropped him off back in town. So it's like they were obviously concerned about his health. So you can rest assured that the cops and the FBI and everybody was freaked out when Travis showed back up at 5 days later. And that's what's really crazy. Now, he only recalls being on the ship for 2 hours, but he was missing for 5 days. They were looking for his body. They charged his friends with murder because they're like, oh, you fucking killed the guy. He didn't get abducted by a UFO, you fucking assholes. He's dead. He's fucking dead. 5 days later, he comes back, and the cops are like, well, we're dicks. So I guess maybe we should fucking listen to you next time. But in the end, he I think the evidence for that case is probably the most compelling evidence for any UFO case. So there's our top 5 list, you guys. UFO proof. Out.